Welcome to the Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we're going to talk about something you literally use every single day, probably without even giving it a second thought. Your words. Today we're going on a really fascinating journey. We'll start with those basic grammar rules you probably learned way back in grade school, and we're going to travel all the way down into the hidden psychological depths of human communication.
So ask yourself a serious question right now. Is a sentence just a simple string of words, or is it actually a secret weapon? I mean, we tend to think of our sentences as just vehicles, right? Little delivery trucks carrying information from point A to point B. But by the end of this explainer, you're going to see that the sentences you choose are actually incredibly powerful tools. They literally shape reality, enforce authority, and whether you realize it or not, manipulate the unspoken assumptions of everyone around you.
Here's our roadmap for this whole journey. First, we'll look at the 4 basic sentence types. Second, how words are actually actions. 3, the hidden power of questions. Number 4, linguistic lessons from Moana, yes, the movie. 5, uncovering hidden presuppositions. And finally 6, why your words matter. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, the 4 basic sentence types. We're starting at the very visible tip of the linguistic iceberg here, looking at the foundational syntax that makes communication possible.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how most of us were introduced to language in the first place, right? Good old textbook exercises. It's rigid, it's completely straightforward, and it gives us these very strict rules to follow. Basically, we learn early on that every sentence has one specific isolated function, period.
Let's just quickly map out these 4 foundational types so we're all on the same page. We have the declarative sentence, which makes a simple statement. Think, she loves reading. Then the interrogative, asking a question, like, do you like coffee? Third is the imperative, which gives a command or a request. Turn off the lights. And lastly, the exclamatory sentence, which expresses strong emotion, like, I can't believe we won. It's all very neat, very tidy, and it fits perfectly into a clean little box. But human communication is rarely that tidy in real life.
Which brings us to Section 2. Words are actually actions. We're shifting away from that rigid textbook style now and diving right below the waterline of the iceberg. Because out in the real world, words aren't just neat little labels, they're actual actions. Okay, so in linguistics, there's this really cool concept called speech act theory, and it basically argues that speaking is performing a physical action. Take a locutionary act. That's the actual performance of an utterance. It requires phonetic features, meaning you are actually physically moving your mouth to make a sound, mixed with syntax and semantics to present a meaning. So when you speak, you're not just broadcasting raw data like a robot, you are physically doing something in the real world.
So the crucial point here is understanding the fundamental difference between a sentence and an utterance. A sentence, that's just an abstract, grammatically complete construction. It lives strictly in theory. But an utterance, that is the physical realization of that sentence. It happens in a specific social context, at a specific exact time, with a very specific tone of voice. If a sentence is the blueprint, the utterance is the actual physical building.
Moving to Section 3, the hidden power of questions. Let's see how all this theory plays out with a specific type of sentence. We usually just think of questions as a simple way to get information, right? But practically speaking, they carry an immense amount of pragmatic weight.
Now, research and discourse analysis actually categorizes interrogative sentences into 5 functional types. You've got yes-no questions, which test assumptions. WH questions request specific data. Alternative questions, the ones using or, those actually guide decision-making. Tag questions like, we're going, aren't we? Those seek reassurance and build collaboration. And indirect questions soften an inquiry just to maintain politeness. So questions aren't just info grabbers, they're actually highly sophisticated tools for rhetorical persuasion and navigating our social norms.
And honestly, human communication just loves to bend the rules. Take the phrase, you need some help? Now, grammatically speaking, that is a declarative structure. It's supposed to be a statement. But because of the social context and that rising intonation of your voice when it's spoken out loud is an utterance, it transforms completely into a question. Your tone of voice alone completely flips the sentence's entire function. How wild is that? Okay, let's dive into Section 4, Linguistic Lessons from Moana. We're going to apply all these heavy academic theories to something incredibly fun. We're going to do a semantic analysis of the hit animated film Moana to see exactly how the movie's dialogue brilliantly maneuvers between syntax and pragmatics.
So, here is our first cinematic case study. It is easily the most famous quote from the whole film. Moana stands tall and declares, "I am Moana of Motunui." Let's actually break down the semantic weight of this. Grammatically, this is literally as basic as it gets. It's a standard declarative sentence. It uses a subject, a linking verb, and a complement. A textbook would tell you it simply conveys information. But as an utterance, in the highly charged context of the film, this basic declarative sentence carries immense psychological power. It's not just a statement. It is a fierce assertion of identity and a reclamation of her destiny, right in the face of a literal lava monster.
Let's move forward and see how this builds when she interacts with the demigod, Maui. She looks right at him and tells him, "You will board my boat."
Structurally, "you will board my boat" is a declarative sentence. It is formatted as a simple statement of future fact. But functionally, it is absolutely an imperative command. In pragmatics, we call this a directive utterance. She's taking a plain statement of fact and using it to give a direct, undeniable order. She is brilliantly bending the grammatical rules to establish her own authority over a literal demigod.
Which leads us to Section 5, Uncovering Hidden Presuppositions. Now we are plunging to the absolute bottom of the communication iceberg. We're going to explore the unsaid assumptions lurking inside our language.
To really understand this, let's define the word presupposition. It's basically the assumption or the background knowledge that is shared by both the speaker and the hearer before the utterance is even made. See, when we speak, we are constantly relying on this hidden context to make our words make sense. If we had to sit there and explain every single context clue every single time we opened our mouths, communication would be impossibly painfully slow.
Take this hilarious cinematic trope observation from Maui. He looks at Moana and casually says, "If you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you're a princess."
Now, what's really interesting here is the underlying linguistic mechanism that makes that joke work. It's called an existential presupposition. The humor relies completely on unspoken, shared background knowledge between the characters, and us, the audience. We all implicitly accept the existence of those standard Disney princess attributes. So the joke only lands because of the massive amount of linguistic background knowledge we already bring to the table before he even opens his mouth.
But presuppositions don't just do comedy, they do heavy emotional lifting too. Later in the film, during this moment of deep vulnerability and failure, Moana says, "I thought we could make it."
This right here is a factive presupposition. By using the specific verb thought, she locks in the reality of their past hope. The presupposition is that a genuine belief in their success truly existed, regardless of the fact that the mission ultimately failed. It just proves how much emotional and narrative heavy lifting a single, well-placed word can do in an utterance.
Section 6. Why your words matter. Let's zoom back out to the real world for a second. We've journeyed from rigid textbook definitions to locutionary acts, all the way through the semantic layers of a Hollywood film. But why does any of this actually matter to you? Well, it matters because mastering the layers between simple syntax and real-world pragmatics makes us vastly better communicators. It helps us realize that we aren't just reciting vocabulary words. We are performing actions, we're establishing authority, and we're navigating deeply complex social webs every single time we speak. So I want to leave you with this thought-provoking challenge. What hidden presuppositions are steering the outcomes of your daily conversations? Are you maybe using declarative statements when you really mean to ask a question? Are your utterances actually carrying the authority you intend them to? The next time you speak, remember, you aren't just stringing words together. You are wielding a profoundly powerful tool. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.